Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here, and we have our long-awaited nerfs with the new expansion releasing. Obviously, with every new expansion, there's new decks that show up. There's old cards that still are very, very good. And unfortunately, the meta has been run by Druid, and we actually have some juicy Druid nerfs, specifically some of the most problematic cards in this meta, which in my opinion is warping it, and we're not seeing a lot of the new decks that should be appearing because of it. So with that, let's get into it. All right, so we have Gallon tweeted, hey everyone, we have an update ready for y'all regarding the new balance changes on 4/26. This is 4 days away from this video right now. It's coming up this upcoming Tuesday, which would mark 2 weeks since the expansion released, and we have changes both to standard and wild. With that, wild, Kel'Thas is getting reverted back to his old text, so each and every turn when the third spell costs 1 instead of 0. Switcheroo is straight up just banned in wild, and then alongside there's going to be a change in standard where Switcheroo is only going to switch the health instead of stats. I think this is still a pretty decent card because Priest doesn't have any draw besides like Northshire Cleric, right? It's just far and few between. So Switcheroo is still switching the stats, just health. You still get the 2 minions. If you don't run a lot of minions, there's a high chance, obviously, you're going to get some of your combo pieces. If you're running like a Dragon Priest, right, and you run like a total of like 8 minions in the deck and you have 2 switcheroos, that's 50% of your minions drawn by that. So it's still not terrible. It's just not as broken anymore, right? And for those of you who are like, oh, for those of you who don't play Wild and you only play Standard and you're like, well, switcheroo wasn't a problem. It may have not been a problem of a deck that like was above a 50% win rate, but as they said here, both these changes are aimed at protecting the long-term health of the format. So kind of just like future thinking for like cards that they haven't printed yet, it could be a problem with and disrupt and have combos that we just don't know yet. So they're just switching that preemptively. Also, nobody wants to play a game of Hearthstone. You have 10 games, let's say 15 games of Hearthstone a day. You log on, you queue into a priest, they switcheroo, they coin switcheroo on 2, and then they play a 24-24 rush on turn 3, and then you lose. And that's how you spent you know, your 5-10 minutes on the toilet and your very minimal Hearthstone time. It's not going to be enjoyable, and overall, I don't think that's really like a healthy deck that should be played a lot, if at all, right? It was fun meme while the expansion came out. We got our laughs, but we have to think about the like long-lasting future, right? Pirates. Pirate Warrior, the quest already got a nerf. The quest used to be 3-2-2 in regards to how many pirates you had to play in order to complete the quest. Then it moved to 3-3-2, which means you had to play an additional pirate for the second step to complete it. And now it's a 3-3-3. So in my nerf video that I made like a week ago, I guessed that they were going to hit Mr. Smite. I didn't think they were going to touch the quest again. But it looks like they did. So now you have to play a total of 9 pirates. I figured that they were going to probably hit Smite, but it looks like they hit the quest instead. So this would be the second nerf to the quest. We'll have to see where it lands. Mr. Smite is still very good. The quest reward is obviously still very good as well, because you can still hit Gorehowl with it. There's a lot of great weapons. You can still hit the 8/8 legendary pirate from Rogue. You can still hit Smites from that. So I don't think Pirate Warrior is going to just completely fall off. Like, it won't be obviously as good. It may go to like more of a control-esh deck instead of like an aggro deck. But I mean, the Juggernaut's still like a hell of a card, right? Like when you get that out, it feels really good. Pufferfist is, we actually had, that was one of the cards that we thought was actually going to get nerfed in our video. It's going to a 3-4. It's going to a 3-3 instead of a 3-4. I think this is fair stats for a really good ability. So even though it did lose the health, which is kind of a big deal because now it dies to stuff like the Drain Soul. There's a lot of like 2-mana deal 3s. There's not a lot of 2 or 3 mana deal 4s. So now it's a little bit easier to kill. Probably won't live that additional turn that it lives now as a 3-1, which is going to reduce damage quite a bit. So good card going down to fair stats. We already covered Switcheroo, and it looks like they opted to target Miracle Growth instead of Guff. So now Miracle Growth costs 8 mana instead of 7. So this was kind of interesting here. Makes sense. 7 mana to draw 3 cards and generate like an 8/8 or bigger. That's pretty big swing. It also allows them to obviously weave in some other spells that turn, whether they're Wraths or Living Roots or Moonlits or what have you. So I mean, just nerfing the draw a little bit. I guess it makes sense. It'll slow it down, I guess, just a tad. But I think the biggest hit to Druid is going to be this next one for Kaz. So the activation requirement for this guy is getting changed. He'll now read Battle Cry. If you've played 4 other dragons this game, then you get the treasures instead of your deck containing, you know, only dragons or no minions at all, right? So now if you're going to play this giant dragon Kaz guy, there's actually requirements for him instead of Druid's just like putting him in and then just not thinking about it, right? So now he's more of a fits into dragon type deck, which is a kind of a little bit of a buff to Dragon Warrior, Dragon Priest, Dragon Paladin if they pop up or exist. So I think that's really good. I've been saying that card needs like, it's a great card, it's a fun card, but it needs to be slotted into decks that aren't Druid. Druid wasn't built for Kaz. The deck, it needs to go into a slow, grindy control deck that it's like that super late game win con, not some turn 8 to turn 10 play because the Druid already drew their whole deck and has 20 mana. So I think this is pretty big. It'll definitely slow it down in Druid. They also, if Druid, you're like, oh, they're just going to run amalgams now, and they already run raid boss. So that's pretty much all their dragons right there because the amalgams generate more raid bosses. Remember that they're going to have to take out 2 cards for this amalgam. And what are those 2 cards going to be? Druid's like the deck was kind of pretty refined already, right? So they're taking out 2 of their better cards to put in 2 shitty cards. And then remember, in order to play raid boss and then use that on a dragon, you need 12 mana, which means they need to hit Guff. That also means that they need to trade in the whelps and have the amalgam in hand. It just like makes things a lot more clunkier, and it kind of disrupts the like really smooth flow of their deck that it currently has, right? So while you can still get around this in Druid, it definitely puts like some roadblocks where they're not just creaming through their deck, making these giant Nagas, going fucking crazy, and then just slapping Kaz and hitting you with double embers at 20 mana, right? So good changes here. Really liking it. I think this is going to open up quite a bit of design space, especially from like the pirate side, and especially from the Kaz side. Again, I don't really know about like the whole like miracle growth going to 8. I don't really give a shit about that. It was really Kaz and then like Pirate Warrior. I mean, it's not the most fun to play against, but I wish they would have hit Smite. I think that was like a bigger deal than making the quest harder. But we'll have to see where this lands. I still think Smite's a problem, in my opinion. A card like, especially like in Control Paladin, like in Control Paladin, their only win condition is to buff a Smite up to like above your health and then kill you with it. That's it. So it can be countered with like stuff like Mutanus, right? But like, I just don't think a charge card having 30 attack is a fun thing. That's just a boring win con, right? Let's do some sort of combo with like a few cards like Lady Syntho and like OTK Quest DH. There's like an actual ordering of cards. There's discounts occurring. You have to like fluctuate how much you draw to how many combo pieces you can use, and then like Control Paladin with its only win con is you click the button and then watch Smite get bigger and bigger, and then you play him and drag him. Like that's the extent of the intellectual hula hoop, so you have to jump through for that deck. So you know, we'll see but I'm pretty satisfied with these changes, and maybe we'll get more in the future, obviously, but for now I think these are good. They're better than none. So let me know what you think. As always, guys, I'm Robert Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.